Welcome to Fight News Now. I'm John Pollock, along with John Ramdeen and Robin Black. We are going through all of today's news items and big discussion over the officiating at UFC 197, guys. We're going to start this off because Herb Dean appointed to be the third man in the octagon for the rematch between Daniel Cormier and Jon Jones. Not so good. If you're Daniel Cormier, he took exception to this, feeling that in the first fight, there were a number of clinches that should have been broken up earlier and therefore did not want Herb Dean to be the official this time around. Nevada said, point taken, he will be the referee anyway. So Herb Dean is officiating this fight. John?
Great. That's great news. I think if you talk to most fighters, most trainers, they'll say who are the three best referees in all of mixed martial arts.
Steve Percival?
Not Dan Cormier, not Steve Percival. You know Herb Dean is going to be in that list of top three. Probably Mark Goddard and Big John McCarthy also on that list as well. But it's all subjective. Yeah, what can you do? I mean, Herb Dean seems like the most qualified referee. He's ref tons of huge fights. This is going to be one of the biggest fights ever. It makes sense.
So if you ask most people, Herb Dean, but not Dan Cormier. Hey, listen, you can talk, what you say out in the world and what your actions that you do, they don't necessarily all mean something. But there's a whole bunch of things that Cormier is doing that winners don't do. And that's no offense. I'm a huge Dan Cormier fan. I'd love to see this guy retain his belt. But when you're out there and you're freaking out because the audience doesn't like you, that's a non-controllable. You don't pay attention to that. You pay attention to the things you can do to win the fight. When you're like, oh man, Herb Dean could have, should have, would have. Now you're starting to make excuses for a fight that you lost. Brian Stan, our buddy, goes and says, I think Jones is going to win. Cormier starts listing out all of the things. I don't know if you guys saw this, listing out every single prediction that our friend Brian got wrong. Hey, everybody gets predictions wrong, Dan, including you. And but I mean, that's a whole bunch of time that should be spent focusing on the fight. You know, all of these things are not great signs. But Cormier has heard that from others. He's heard that from Rockhold, his close training partner and good friend. So it's going to sink in. He's still got the time to refocus. But all of this stuff is a distraction.
I think that it's going to be very interesting to see going into this particular fight because we're seeing all of this from Daniel Cormier. And I think a lot of that stems from the press conference and people reading into the reactions because this is very much a pivotal fight in the career of Daniel Cormier. This is a loss that he certainly wants to erase. It's for the highest stakes possible for the 205-pound championship. And if you're Daniel Cormier and you're looking at a potential second loss to Jon Jones, I mean, yes, you can continue to fight after that, but at that point, you have to also resign yourself to the fact that after two losses to Jon Jones, you're not probably getting another title opportunity anytime soon. So the stakes could not be higher here for Daniel Cormier. I would say higher than they are for Jon Jones, who has his career ahead of him.
Sure, I totally understand what you're saying, but we're also, when you look at the landscape of things, when you look at 205 pounds right now, there are not a whole lot of fresh challengers for Jon Jones. It's different than the welterweight division, but right now people believe, well, if Rory McDonald defeats Stephen Thompson, it would only make sense that he fights Robbie Lawler for the title. For the third time he would fight. As long as you are in the top three, top five of the division, you're constantly making that case for yourself. I think Daniel Cormier will all recognize, especially if he looks good in this fight against Jon Jones again, that he still is in the top three or top two. And I think as long as you stay at the top, he'll always have an opportunity to fight for the title if they're running out of challengers.
My worry as a Daniel Cormier fan and as somebody who'd love to see, loves what he does on TV, loves the way he fights. I love analyzing this guy's fights. I just did the breakdown just shot it today for Jones Cormier. You watch what this guy can do, it's magical. But my concern is all this other stuff he's paying attention to. Doesn't matter whether there's ever another title shot ever in your future. Doesn't matter if you might retire or not retire. Doesn't matter if the audience likes Jones and doesn't like you. Doesn't matter if Brian Stan predicted against you. Doesn't matter if Herb Dean. None of that matters, Dan. None of it matters. What matters is focusing on having your best performance on the night. Doesn't even matter win or lose. You're more likely to win if you're focused on a perfect performance.
Can you do both? Can you? It's like, okay, I'm going into American Kickboxing Academy from 10 till noon. I've done that. I'm going to come back later tonight to do whatever else I need. During those hours, during that downtime, can he not be doing that stuff? Oh, okay, I want to, Brian Stan pissed me off as I'm recovering, doing my research for whatever on Fox. these are things I'm compiling so I can, that's just in his nature. He's a competitor.
Yeah,
He's
and
got his people I hate list.
yeah, exactly. He needs to push that out of his nature until after the fight. Twitter is not something any fighter should spend any time on in the 3-4 weeks before a fight.
I would argue anyone.
Yeah. Twitter is not something
Fighters,
anyone should.
astronauts, teachers,
It's true.
public service officials.
It's very true. But all of this is a distraction. You know, we saw Nate Diaz beat Conor McGregor mentally and then finish him. We saw Holly Holm beat Ronda Rousey mentally and then finish her. Cruz was the mental alpha male in the scenario with TJ Dillashaw. It goes on and on and on. Cormier, it's mental. You need to focus for the next few weeks. Don't even show up for your other jobs. Cancel your appearances on Fox. Nothing matters but being the best Daniel Cormier in those 25 minutes or less. 29 minutes, including one-minute breaks. Nothing else matters. Herb Dean's a great ref.
Can you use this as motivation to say, hey, look, John Jones is pissing me off. I don't like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Because it's burned into my brain, I'm going to force myself to work harder so that, if I want the audience to like me, the way you're going to get the audience to love you is by crushing John Jones. And the way, I don't know, can he do that? But the way to do that is to make sure you're in charge of everything in your camp, as you pointed out. Neglect the things that you don't need a part of your life and focus on the things that you do.
But the things you don't need a part of your life are caring what the audience thinks. Yeah. And also, if you have your best performance, the audience is more likely to like you. If you have your best performance, you're more likely to win. If you have your best performance, you're more likely to stay the champion. You focus on, you don't focus on the result. You focus on the work and you focus on the moment. Dan knows this. Cormier knows this. He can refocus in. Talk to 100 good sports psychology people, Olympic level sports psychologists, they'll all tell you the same thing. None of this stuff matters. Even the guys who said, yeah, I use that. Michael Bisping, you said, I need to be mad at the guy. Now, after he's done more work, he knows that was a wasted effort. He needs to be the best Michael Bisping or the best Dan Cormier you can in the moment.
I think it's fascinating when you look at Daniel Cormier, and if you objectively look at the first fight and realize what I brought that night. And Daniel Cormier said ahead of time, I have no injuries, granted, sure. no fighter is 100% going into a fight, but he said, I have no excuses because I trained as hard as I can for this fight coming up at UFC 182. And we saw the performance. John Jones won that fight. There was no controversy. He won that fight. You could argue, certainly, there was a round that Cormier won in there. Cormier has to look back at that objectively and say, my best was not good enough that night. I have to change this game for this rematch. I have to change so much about myself that has won me all of this, that brought me to that level at UFC 182. If you're John Jones, he's looking back, I've beaten this guy, and I've got to do it again. So Daniel Cormier, to me, the spotlight is on him. What are you going to do for your second chance here at John Jones?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Is the time away, is that a factor for John Jones? You would imagine no, because he's John Jones and he's been able to do the things that he has been able to do, despite the fact that many people say that he doesn't train the way that a true champion should train, which is terrifying considering the past performances of John Jones. If you add to the fact his strength and conditioning regimen, he's going to be bigger, stronger, maybe faster than Cormier. Cormier's older than he was the last time he faced John Jones. I think John Jones is going to be in his prime. Cormier understands this. I think he's just now got to get to a different level. He says, okay, I was ready for this version of John Jones. Now you have to anticipate a better version of John Jones and how you're going to beat the version of yourself and even be better than both guys.
And that's it. And Daniel Cormier can win this fight. He needs growth since the last fight. He knows if he's grown since the last fight. He needs to be his best on the night. He needs to be absolutely free and go in and do what he's done. And he needs the total belief that he's going to win this fight. And right now he's walking around in the world, I'm going to win this fight, but I don't want Herb Dean in there. I'm going to win this fight, but why are these people booing me? I'm going to win. He needs the full, true knowledge that this is his and he's going to win it. Without that knowledge, John Jones, that lion, walks on in there and gets stronger and stronger as that fight goes on.
Also, some fights announced. Sarah McMahon is going to be fighting Jessica Ai. That's going to be happening at the Mandalay Bay Event Center May the 29th in Las Vegas as well. Glory 30, which is going down on May the 13th. Middleweight champion Simon Marcus defending the title against Dustin Jacoby. You recently chatted with Simon Marcus. I mean, Glory, to me, this is going to be a very interesting stretch now. You have to deal with Fight Pass as well as ESPN at this point. And we're in this marketplace now with the rise of Bellator kickboxing, which will be debuting in April, that you have two leagues that are going after viewership in the U.S., and this is going to be a key event for Glory coming up in California.
Very true, and I have a lot of friends and followers that are kickboxing fans. So, and they're right now, especially with Fight Network, there's a delay. There was times that we carried Glory live. They're like, well, what's happening with Glory? Where can we watch this live? Now that it's on Fight Pass, that's going to draw the fans that are specifically kickboxing. That's their thing. It's going to draw them to Fight Pass, and essentially that if you are a combat sports fan, Fight Pass is going to be the destination for you. So I think this is a great thing that Bellator is doing, because I think they're going to open it up to the masses with the support of Viacom. I just don't think that when Glory was on Spike, they had enough time to really get to the audience. Now that Bellator is in the kickboxing game, Coker knows what he's doing. I think you're going to see a lot more kickboxing.
Well, you guys forgive me if I make myself a little plug here?
Yeah, give her.
I'm also going to be commentating on Fight Pass April 2nd for Shooto Brazil 62 live on Fight Pass.
Awesome. There you go. Always working the plugs, Mr. Black. All right, that is going to wrap things up. But of course, we want to make sure that you tune in to our next UFC pre-show. It's going to be happening Thursday, April the 7th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for the UFC's card in Zagreb, Croatia, headlined by Ben Rothwell and Junior Dos Santos. It's a special Sunday afternoon card, and the undercard will be airing here on Fight Network in Canada, with 4 fights coming your way from Croatia on Fight Network.